No, you're fine. Just to make sure that you're up there close and I'll try to sit back and not overpower you too much. But here comes here. Okay. All right, we had to come out here today and talk to Alex, the Alex from Hermetic. But it's very intriguing, interesting to me that you guys, I know that you're using the worm, the dirt and all that, but tell us about the actual process and what you put into it, because that's what I find interesting.
Have you guys visited other grows that build their own vermicompost on site?
Yeah.
They do.
Yes.
Yeah. And they don't have a special sort of recipe or anything like that?
Well, I've never talked about it in depth as you and I have. And I'd like to talk about that.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so the vermicompost is the foundation of soil building. And what I mean by that is when I first was starting this company, I'm a wrestler by background, like I was telling you guys, and it's all about your strong foundation, fundamentally, right? You want to know your basics. So I took that concept and I ran with it to the cannabis industry. Okay, well, I'm an organic grower. What are my absolute foundation? Where do my fundamentals lie? What grows the plant? What all this, right? It all comes back down to your starting soil. And to create a high quality soil, you need a high quality compost. And so that's what originally led me to doing the vermicomposting. And so we take it a step further by having a very special diet that we formulate around vegetables and fruits that are targeted specifically to hit the body's chakras. And so a little bit of that is metaphysical, theory, and a little bit of that is esoteric knowledge around colors and vegetables and the specific shapes and symbolizing the specific shapes within your body, that sort of thing. Yeah. So we did that in hopes that the end experience, you feel the targeted areas that we are trying to hit. So like right now, do you feel it more in your body, or is it a more third eye sort of cerebral?
Like right now, it's more head.
And it's very clear, right?
Yes.
So that's why we do it.
Right.
So that's why we do that.
And
it plays with it, not necessarily that's the end all be all,
right,
but that helps the end process.
It helps you get there, and that's one thing I loved about your flower too. Is everything is it's almost a journey of its own. Whenever you try the flower, I mean, your strains, like my strain of the month last month was
the wizard shit.
Yeah, the wizard shit, and like I tried to explain it before, it made me feel like a wizard, and then in the end, I created some really cool shit, and I wanted to sit back on the couch and just look at it,
Yeah.
And it was like a process. And so like this right here, I know eventually I'm going to be like, yeah, man, I'm nice and comfortable, but I'm clear-headed, can think.
Put you in the moment.
Yeah.
Medicine.
Yes,
soul medicine.
It's so medicine.
It's not what people think about when I say medicine, They're like, wait, you mean for the epilepsy, cancer? Well, yeah, of course, the traditional way. But then there's also this little hidden aspect, which is your soul and your mind, that people just put to the back end, and you're like, no. This is the trifecta. You need the trifecta of medicine. So
yes,
I love the clarity.
Yeah, so, I mean, Anna, even on the way over here, we were talking about kind of what you...
just growing up here and kind of growing up a lot after I got out of high school and just realizing that I'm kind of a weirdo around here. and not a lot of people really appreciated that, I felt like. And so I had to kind of move away to find my people. So I was wondering if you like had experienced any adversity.
My whole life has been
Yeah.
a series of adversities towards this whole, I guess, woke trend. But I won't even talk about that right now. More so like resonating with spirituality, right? And I think that we all resonate with spirituality, and that's why it's drawn to some of us who are weird. It just took me a long time to realize that my weirdness is my authenticity and my uniqueness.
Right.
And so when you say where you met with that, it's like, heck yeah, like Eric, I used to be bullied on the bus for whatever it was, you know, and Eric is actually like someone I work with, my employee here, has been the person that's like, no, I'm going to kick your ass sort of thing for these things. So where I did have adversity, I've always had a sort of mentor. I've always had someone that's been there to lift me up. And this goes back to what I was kind of talking about prior to this about my own, like my own things that I suffer with, which is like not having a father, by growing up with a biological father. So I feel like the universe places these aspects or these archetypes in your life through your hero's journey so that you can remember what we're supposed to be doing here, which plays into the synchronicities. So I see synchronicity as, yes, a wokeness, but it's fleeting, and it's a symbol, and you have to be able to read this symbol like a pattern, because it's all pattern recognition. That's all anything is, and intelligence in general is the ability to recognize patterns and to go off those patterns. And so to me, synchronicities are the easiest ones are with repeating numbers, and that's because we live in a digital age, and if there was something divine, and since we don't live in nature anymore, and it's a very hard communication process for a plant to tell you like, hey, this is what's going on, you're on the right path, it needs to be able to evolve with us as we evolve. So that's why you find it mainly through numbers now, is because it's trying to find ways to communicate with you.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense. Sometimes it just really takes like taking a step back and reflecting on the scenarios and the situations in your life for a minute to really connect the dots and see those patterns as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes a lot of error and a lot of failure to even become aware to those signs. At least from my perspective, I really had to go down dark holes and rock bottoms continuously before I got the message. And I mean, it's probably because I learned from experience, and I have to be put through those things so that I can learn to become more aware of these patterns so that I can read them.
Yeah.
Right.
And something that really helped me was being involved in the garden more. And every time I'm in the garden and I can observe mathematics in a natural state, it's a communication process. Anytime that you can sit still and project an image of the plant, and the plant is projecting an image on to you of your perception, there is a symbiotic relationship there that transcends words, and that is the same language that the synchronicity numbers speak as well. And it took me, stepping away. It took me really asking, why is this happening to me, sort of thing. Like a lot of it, because it's like, oh no, I'm being a good person. I'm trying my best. Yeah, I'm not perfect, but why is this happening to me? Why? And I got over this whole victim mentality, because that's what it was for me. Is like, I'm a fucking victim. I've had all these things. I came into the world fucking hurting. I don't have a father. Oh yeah, death hit me early on, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm a fucking victim. Why is this happening? But then it changed completely once I got into the cultivating world, because then it started to show me that everything I'm going through had a greater purpose, and that if I hadn't have gone through those things, I wouldn't be as strong as I am today to be as authentic as I am, or as unique as I think I am, right? Because it takes personal strength to stand and be like, no, like, this is how I feel, this is my opinion, this is who I am, and does that make sense? It's just like one of those things that you have to go through it, and it's the hardest thing because it's all you have is yourself. You can't be like, hey man, can you help me get through this hard time? They're like, dude, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, fuck. What do I have to do? You know, and there's
especially whenever you start looking into that and diving into that on a more or less metaphysical level. It's more layman's terms is
the metaphysical shit comes after.
I understand. But yeah, we can go there. But you know, it's like, okay, so codependency. Let's look at codependency. We are naturally a little bit codependent because we need one another to support each other. And so whenever you go through those trials that are given to you or whatever, your journey and those struggles and everything, and you look back and you really are the only one that really recognizes exactly what's happening at that point.
Yeah.
That is a message of itself to yourself, and many people can't recognize that and understand that. And I wish that more people could, because no, let me take that back. I think that more people actually do, and less people actually admit to it. Okay? When your head hits the pillow at night, that's when the truth comes out. That's whenever you know how you feel inside of you.
Yeah.
That's whenever I know.
Yeah.
So I wish more people would be truthful.
Well,
I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Well, you know, how hard is it for you to be truthful with yourself on your worst vices? Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. It's like that tipping point.
Yeah.
Whenever you get to that tipping point at your worst, and you can finally be honest, like completely honest with yourself, that's the threshold.
Yeah. That's the piercing the veil.
Yes.
I would call that.
And then you start learning.
Yeah. Well, then you start remembering.
Yes. But you don't remember with regret. You don't remember with any kind of negative after that. You start understanding it a little bit more. You're sad about things and you struggle with things, but you take those and you learn from it.
Yeah.
So.
You alchemize it.
Yes.
It's alchemy.
Well, and I think maybe what Alex was trying to say with remembering is some of that comes from like remembering from our ancestors, remembering from our ancestral DNA.
In past lives. So this thing that Matt has started doing, instead of being like, hey, you know, like you know, instead it's like, no, hey, you remember? Are you remembering yet? Are you getting back? Because we really preach here about gardens that flow and people that flow, and to be in flow, ask for honesty, you know. So when we have issues where it's like, oh yeah, I remember it, that's a way of us being like triggering to be like, let's flow.
Yeah.
Now you're in that state. You're in almost an altered state of consciousness, not quite, you know, but a little, just enough to get the pressure going.
That's why they call it waking up.
Yeah, or woke.
Yeah, or woke.
But I hate that trend. So let's talk about that for a second, because I hate that. And I love the word, you know, it's a cool word. Yeah, I'm
cool,
woke, dude. Yeah, you're woke, bro. But it gets thrown around loosely, and I feel like this is a sort of, have you heard the term PSYOP, you know, psychological operational warfare? You know, in terms, you could look at it as a sort of PSYOP that they're giving you the information that your soul wants, but they're not going to, it's surface level with anything, right? And that's why it doesn't work, because there's no depth to it.
Right.
And that's why it's annoying for the people who do the work, and you're like, dude, you're not, like, okay, like for instance, I'm not very political, but I just don't take sides. I think it's all bullshit, the duality of it.
I agree.
But like the far left really considers themselves so progressive, but in an instance they're the same as the far right. So it's like, you're having some cognitive dissonance there that you're not like facing. Sure. And well, so it's not woke, you're coming from a place of ignorance, and then it's like you're giving it a bad name. Being organic grower, you deal with different types of heavy metals naturally occurring in the earth, right? Mm-hmm. In Oregon, we didn't have to deal with any heavy metal testing, so I've never had to deal with that before. In our first 2 rounds here, we got through perfectly non-detectable levels. Our 3rd round, we hit hot for arsenic, but just barely. So the cutoff is 0.2, and we were hitting at like 0.218, I think, at that point. So it was very confusing. And we recently just did a bunch of tests, and it came back that our seaweed extract, our pH buffers, have high levels of arsenic in there. And so, of course, I'm thinking, is that dangerous? How dangerous is it? So it says total arsenic on there. So now I'm asking questions like, okay, well, what is dangerous levels of arsenic? What's arsenic toxicity look like? That sort of thing. Because I've been smoking on the flower for a while now at this point when these things come back. So I'm like, okay, shit, giving it to all of them. Are we all going to die? Well, what's going to happen? Well, come to find out that total arsenic does not differentiate what is toxic and what's not. It's actually between inorganic and organic arsenic. Now, inorganic arsenic is the toxic arsenic that is carcinogenic and it will eventually kill you. Organic arsenic is not harmful whatsoever. Organic arsenic just happens to be found in seaweed and sea ocean products. So that kelp that I was using was also a bioaccumulator. So it's like cannabis is. So anything that's in the earth's crust, it's going to pick it up. So it's not actually a fair representation of what's dangerous and what's not. Now, another weird thing was the state of Oklahoma's drinking water arsenic levels are 0.5. So tap water, anybody's tap water, actually in Weatherford it's 1.6. The levels of arsenic is 1.6. So they're not even within regulations, and people are drinking it. But the whole state is mainly above what they're testing for cannabis. So it's almost like a conspiracy against organic growers at this point, right? So that's been a huge fight and a hurdle to get over. But we're adapting to it, and we are switching our full soil over to a veganic mix, and we're going to be just a almost full veganic farm besides some fish products, which I found one that I can substitute that doesn't have any arsenic in it.
That's fantastic.
Amazing.
That's one way to look at it. A lot of people would give up at that point, or just throw more money at it, or conform. At that point, but you've found a way around it. You've not changed the wind. You've found a way to navigate through it. And I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's important, right? When you come against a challenge, you don't want to fold or necessarily break, even though it's stressful and the pressure's on, and that's not the time to break. Go home and have a cry about it. But right now, it's time to buckle up, find a creative solution around it, and we keep moving, and we don't break the ethos. That's the most important thing. And I think that's where a lot of companies go wrong, is because they have this wonderful story and then they break ethos, or they break their moral codes, or whatever, the shortcuts that they take. Then they take more, leads to more, one pattern. And then it's now they're in a dead end where they had this awesome foundation in it. They let it crumble. The structure crumbled on top of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's something that, one thing that I've been personally dealing with or kind of thinking about a lot are transitions. And with transitions, to me, that fundamentals comes in heavy. You have to have those fundamentals in play and that patience that you talk about and everything in order to make those transitions. But it's still scary. It's very scary. A transition
Totally.
is something that, I mean, think about it. The world is, one of the biggest fears in the world is change.
Yeah. And that's the only thing that's constant in life. So in retrospect, people mainly fear living.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
It's crazy. You're just like, what the fuck? What are you
to
doing?
an
You're
extent,
dead. You're dead. You're not living. You're
if
dead.
you live in fear, yes. I mean, what's the point? But
No.
I mean, say that.
It has its boundaries, right? Like, without fear, you can't grow. You know, just like without sadness, you can't know what happiness is. It's this whole duality thing that we're stuck in, right? To evolve the soul.
Right.
But when you come into the material world, and the moment that you get here, all you're taught is either fear, sadness, depression, or you're tricked into it. Like, you are up against a lot. You're up against a lot. It takes a lot of work. That's why it's like you have to learn patience with people, because people are up against a lot. A lot.
Yeah. I mean, we are up against a lot, but the main thing that I feel that we're up against is ourselves.
Ignorance.
And well, yeah.
That's that.
It's more of, to me, it's more of a stepping back, an overhead view of yourself, of oneself. The ability to sit back, almost like a video game. You take an inventory. You were able to look back at yourself. You've got a camera, an eagle's eye camera on yourself, and then you're able to say, okay, is it ignorance, or was it just everything that I thought was wrong?
That is the catalyst for figuring out that it's ignorance. You know what I mean?
Who's ignorance?
Usually it's ours, you know? It's either we're either ignorant because we lack patience, or we're either ignorant because we don't fully understand the situation. We come in with a bias, you know. Mainly the main enemy here is ignorance. Then it starts to get weird when you're like, well, the people that know what they're doing that you think is bad, like, are they just terrible people, or do they think what they're doing is good?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. It
does. So ignorance, right? It all goes back down to ignorance. I can be yelling at somebody because they did something wrong, but it could be because we were ignorant in a communication process. It could be because we were ignorant in the work that was being done. Even fighting with a spouse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Usually it's a battle between the educated ego and the non-educated ego, because the non-educated ego doesn't want to give up that fight, right? The educated ego comes from a place of compassion and understanding. And when you have compassion and understanding, you are full of wisdom and clarity, and that's the opposite of ignorance.
Tell me about this again.
All right, this is ice cream cake. This is actually our bee leaf cut, gifted to me by Bee Leaf. It's gelato crossed with wedding cake. Gelato 33, the Larry Bird cut, crossed with wedding cake. And it's a house favorite because I originally learned to cultivate it at my last grow in Oregon, and it was kind of the last thing I got to do there before I left. So it was very nostalgic for me to get my hands on it. It's my favorite smoke. It's my favorite. So is it cheesy?
No. Not at all.
Okay.
It's
cakey.
Yes.
Yeah. It lingers on the back of the tongue.
So, like, if anybody's watching this, I know that this sounds like a commercial, and I've sounded like a commercial before. Your flower is some of the best flour that I've ever had in my entire life.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
I agree.
I really appreciate that.
Yes.
We put a lot of work into it. But also, good genetics play a huge part in what we do. Getting good genetics. No, hold on to it for a second. Kind of let it sit with it for a second.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm telling, that's like, okay, the other things are fun, when it comes to like the connoisseur part. This is like the creme. This is your French kiss. This is that okay, sit on it and let the experience kind of take you for a ride.
You said you have somewhat of an ability to share information in an entertaining way. There's no like somewhat about it. You have the ability. Like, I have shown so many people your Instagram page since we first got connected, because you are very entertaining. It makes me very interested in cultivation and horticulture, because it's fun to listen to you talk about it.
Thank you.
So we're really excited. Yeah, well, we're really excited to have you join our family. I'm very excited to see what kind of education and information, but also just energy that you bring to the table. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Have you been working? What are you working on right now? Like, what do you have going on? Lot?
I have a lot of projects. I sometimes feel like I'm being pulled in a million directions. But let's think. I got some of my Michigan projects, which is where some of my medical grows are. So I like to go up there. Then I have my soil projects here that I'm working on in Ohio. Now I'm working with TILF, which is a local organic soil supplier. So they take food scraps from all over the city of Cleveland and the greater area, and they compost that, and they take other things from food banks, things that go bad, and they compost all this into a very high-end compost, and then they add this into their mix with other high-end, hopefully local ingredients. And our research there, I mean, I could talk about that for a while, but we're really trying to get locally sourced amendments and locally sourced fertilization. So if we can do that and create mixes that are made from everything locally and are local cultivars, things like that, then that's really, I feel like, where the market's going to be. Now, other than my soil research project, which kind of goes off into a lot of other tangents, one of them including working with Galenas, as well as a few other level 1 and level 2 medical grows in Ohio. So we're trying to get them some more media, just to try to fit them, because believe it or not, a lot of these people are buying stuff from across the United States. I just went on a tour yesterday, and they were buying it from Humboldt. And I was like, you're buying peat and perlite from Humboldt? And they were like, well, yeah. And I was like, you're probably getting, extremely taxed on that, to be nice.
Yeah, no kidding.
So we're really trying to just help these growers have access to the things they need locally, because they're still looking at Cali, and the supply chain is real. It's really, the problems that are coming are real. So I think this is going to be more important for us, especially as we go into legalization.
Absolutely.
So that's one project. And then I'm also working on a project in Jamaica, a couple different projects.
Oh, wow.
I won't divulge too much about those, but one is a local sort of small craft farm where they're going to be doing high-end cannabis flower in Jamaica. And then another one I'm really excited about, maybe a little bit more, maybe about the same, has to be the retreat center for psychedelics that they're doing down there. So I'm trying to go down there and bring some of my energy, maybe a little Terrence-esque energy to the situation. And I think that's going to be interesting. They're focused on psilocybin and as well as THC. So that's kind of their focus right now. And I think that's really going to change people's perspective, because they'll get to go down there, they'll get to have a whole different experience, and it's going to be really amazing. So,
and have that experience in a place where they know that they're safe and they're comfortable in that environment. That's awesome.
Because I feel like people, this change is happening, and people want to know what it's about. They see the John Hopkins studies, saying these things are some of the most influential events in people's lives. And people think about that, when they're putting it up there with their mother dying or the children being born or them almost dying personally, that's when it's a serious impact on their life. So that's really exciting for me.
Absolutely. And that's what we need in order to break those stigmas, is more people to say, listen, I tried this and it's okay. It's not this evil thing that we've made it out to be for decades.
And people go there and they see their God and then they go, wow. And it changes their life. What else can you say?
Yeah.
If you kind of see God, I don't know what else to say.
Absolutely. Well, that is so awesome. Those are some cool projects you've got going on.
Yeah, that's just the tip of the iceberg there.
Yeah. Do you see yourself like heading in a few new directions, or are you looking forward to any big changes? Or
that is a great question, because I worked at the Cleveland School of Cannabis for a couple years, almost 2.5 years. And
as an instructor, right?
Yes, as the lead horticulture instructor. So I was kind of brought on there. And when I was teaching there, I had all sorts of offers, people trying to, well, come here, do this, do that. Why don't you go work for these people and make all this money? Do this, do that. Go, and I never follow the money personally. So for me, I've been holding out for the big legalization. And I called this out. If you follow my Instagram, like back in the day, there's some people, my students, who were following it back last year before I kind of came out of the grow closet. And I was calling things out. When the UN had changed its clarifications on cannabis and where it was going to be putting it, the next day, the United States moved that bill, the MORE Act, through the House of Representatives. Now, I told everyone, this is not coincidence. This is a statement, because we're getting back then, even Mexico was still talking about legalization. And as we're getting into that, we're getting into a pincer situation. So I knew from the beginning that once Mexico was moving towards us, that we would be doing this as well. Now, I had a lot of people tell me, you're wrong. And now they're sitting there like, oh, no, it's going to be legal this year. And the reason I think it is again, this pincer situation. You got Canada, which the US didn't care about that much. There's not a lot of black market things going on anyway. But now we have Mexico with, all those ties. And again, this pincer effect where we have no choice. It's either going to drive black market mafias and things here from Mexico, or we have to move forward. And at the end of the day, I find it an oxymoron that we have some of the most advanced grows and cultivators and things on this continent, and again off of it in other parts of the US, Hawaii and everything, aloha. But we have all these amazing cultivators and things, yet it's still legal. We're at the head of the game in the world, but it's still legal. It's an oxymoron to me. So,
it absolutely does not make sense.
So I guess I just kind of pointed up.
Yeah. Well, hopefully hopefully we're moving in the right direction.
If you are interested in this market, right now is the time to be in it. The niches, the ancillary markets, these things are where people are going to be able to make their living and be able to make, generational wealth for their family. So I urge everyone, follow your dreams today, get on it, go to the cannabis school, go somewhere else to get certified, get to know people in their network, do whatever you have to do, because we need people in this industry who are about the medicine, in my opinion. And we need people that have been in this industry to get the benefits of when it goes legal, because they deserve it. So I think that's really important to notify about.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people are scared, and I hear a lot of people say, well, I want to wait until all of the laws are figured out and sorted. And I'm like, that could be years. And during that time, you could be learning so much about the industry and about your craft.
Exactly.
Well, hopefully you will encourage some people to put their work gloves on and start cultivating.
I hope so. I hope they're ready for bad jokes.
Hey, I'm full of those too, so I can relate.
I know.
I'm like, I'm completely used to just crickets after I say something that I think is hilarious, and everyone else is like,
Well, I think some of your content is amazing too. So I will give you some smiley faces. Okay, I know how it feels to get the crickets.
Yes, I will send them right back your way.